Hey, how about them tops, son?
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the RedOUT Podcast.
So like a lot of you, I get those annoying phone calls, the Medicare, McCay. But the real wake-up call for me was when I ordered 2 computers from Amazon. But I didn't order 2 computers from Amazon, you say. Oh, somebody else did. Yeah, that was a close call for me. I realized that my personal information was out there, and I was vulnerable. But how are so many people able to get a hold of my information? One reason might be irresponsible companies. For example, AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, both former and existing, were exposed on the dark web. They recommended those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. That's a lot of work for us to do because one company couldn't keep their data safe. This is why I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura does all of this for me, and best of all, it's all in one app. If my info was compromised in the AT&T data breach, I wouldn't worry because Aura would already be protecting me. Don't sacrifice your privacy because it's a chore to keep up with it. Aura makes it easy. Aura is always on, doing the hard work of keeping my information safe. I value my privacy, and so should you. You guys should check out Aura. You can go to aura.com/RedOut, or that link is in the description below to start your free trial. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to that Hilltopper action.
Hello and welcome into another RedOUT Podcast. I know it's been a little bit, guys, crazy hectic holidays and Medicare Matt over here working on his stuff. So thank you all for being patient with us. We appreciate your support, and thanks to our sponsor Aura and our patrons. So we appreciate you all. Matt, I want to start off with a quick question. Is a football rivalry a rivalry if it's not played at the end of the year or there's no pepper spray involved? I'm just saying.
The layers to that question.
Well, I think your rivalry game should be towards the end of the year. I hate playing middle at the beginning. I think that's ridiculous.
But also,
Now the pepper spray thing, for those of you who don't know, there were several teams this past weekend who had fights at the end of the games because the winning team, aka the visitor, attempted to put their flag on top of the logo of the other team. I don't know how to feel about this because I would probably be frustrated if I was one of the players too. But, there's a lot of pride that goes into your team. So we had Florida versus Florida State. There was a brawl there. In North Carolina and NC State, there was another brawl. And then the biggest one was Ohio versus Michigan, which is a heated rivalry that goes back before the football teams. I mean, those two states just loathe each other for whatever reason. And in that last game that I mentioned, the cops were breaking up the fight and even having to use pepper spray to do so, which is like, good gosh, guys, how bad is this fight? The only one, I will mention another one here, was Texas and Texas A&M. Texas's coach stopped his players from planting the flag. He was like, this is not how we do this, guys. Go. And I honestly think he avoided a third or fourth brawl because of that, because Texas A&M would have been very frustrated as well. So what are your thoughts, Matt?
yeah, man. I mean, well, if we want to play middle at the end of the year, they should be relevant. If we really wanted to be anything. But I thought it was interesting how it worked out with Conference USA because the top 4 teams all played each other the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
It was really interesting because it was all up in the air. Well, other than, Jacksonville State just not even needing to beat Western in the last week.
Yes.
Because we screwed up. But otherwise, it would have worked out to be really dramatic. But, I mean, it was interesting because it's top 4 teams. So I'm okay with how it worked out. But, I'd love to play middle the last week. That'd be fun. Every 10 years when they're competitive, it'll mean something.
Yeah. And of course, I kind of mentioned this in our little text group, but Liberty's meltdown I mean, yes, players transfer in and out, but it seems to me that because they did not win Conference USA this year, that they are just like, woe is us. The team's awful. Fire everybody, which I think Chadwell is gone, if I'm not mistaken. Their coach.
Have they announced that he's going?
I think so. I don't know if it's official yet. I haven't been on Twitter today. I had to go watch Moana 2 with my daughter, which it's a good little movie if you're a Disney fan. No spoilers here.
Thank you.
But anyway, yeah, so that's always fun to watch. I wish we had a rival that was more tropical. Can we get like FIU as a good rival, when they're good? But anyway, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of everything today. Let's talk volleyball real quick.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk, Matt.
Take the lead on this.
You go right ahead, buddy. You got this.
Okay. I mean, I know you're an expert on all things volleyball. So
spike, dig. There you go. That's what I got.
Yeah, side out. No, but yeah, so exciting time of year is always Lady Topper volleyball. Once again is on a 1,000-game win streak. I think they were 3-6 and they finished, or 4-6 maybe. They finished 28-6.
It's awesome.
By the end of the conference tournament. It was not as easy of a road as it normally is to get to the NCAA tournament. They were not going to make the tournament if they didn't win. And so guess what? They won with little fanfare. They did lose a couple sets in the conference tournament, but overall they dominated CUSA once again and were the clear best team, and again are getting votes in the polls and all that. They played a really tough schedule at the beginning of the year, so all their losses are decent. A few of them ended up not being that great, but they were all power teams or teams that were expected to be NCAA tournament type of teams. And so now here they are, they're in the tournament again. Now there is a little bit of frustration. I saw Travis Hudson on his press conference talking about how they kind of got screwed because of how volleyball does the seeding. Basically, the top 32 seeds get quote unquote a seed. And then from there, it's basically geographically based. So Western always pretty much ends up playing UK, Louisville, Purdue, Illinois, somebody that's like within, 200 or 300 miles. And you kind of just get bracketed according to where you're from. Unfortunately, though.
Good job, baby.
Yeah. Good job, Abby.
Good job on your puzzle, babe.
Great work.
Okay, you go get it, and I'll look at it in a minute. Thank you. Go ahead, bud. Sorry.
All good. I love it. But yeah, Lady Toppers. So they play Minnesota. So Minnesota is like a top 15 team. And Western is considered, top 30, 35, something like that. And so WKU draws Minnesota, and then if they beat Minnesota, which will be pretty tough. Hey, Abby, girl, you're getting big.
We're goodness. Yep. I got to go look at a puzzle. Keep talking, buddy.
Hey, man. So yeah, Minnesota is the first round. Tough draw. They're Big Ten. They're going to be really big and physical and all that stuff. And then next round they would have Kentucky, or honestly forget the other team that's in the other side of the bracket. But we assume if Western beats Minnesota, then they would play UK at UK on Friday. So they play Thursday at 3:30 Central, and then Friday, if they beat Minnesota, then they would play UK. So did you catch all that?
Yeah, I did. I kept my AirPods in so I could hear you. So my question would be, obviously UK is one of the top tiers, and Minnesota is up there too. I think they're a 4 seed. Is that correct?
Well, UK is a 3 and they're a 6.
Okay. So they're a 6 seed. Okay. but they're still up there. What is our chances against Minnesota? And pretty slim to none? Or you telling me there's a chance?
I think there's a chance. I think, first of all, I think our team is bigger than it's ever been.
Okay.
As far as like we got a girl that's 6'5". We got, Kaylee Cox is a good solid like 6'2", 6'3". I mean, she's a big tall girl. And on top of being really good. So we've always had really good players, but they haven't always had the length to be able to compete.
Yeah.
Like on a national level. So when you face a team that's like a power four or whatever they call them now, type
Power
of school,
Gophers.
they're going to have the what?
The Power Gophers. Yeah.
Yeah, something
Isn't
like
that the Minnesota Gophers or something?
Yeah, the Golden Gophers.
There you go.
So, I mean, they have 10 losses on the year. So, I mean, it's not like they're invincible, but their schedule was ridiculous. Like they played, they're in the Big Ten. So, like, they played like 6 top 10 schools and they played some non-conference stuff. Everybody they lost to was good. They usually took a set off of everybody, even if they did lose. So, I mean, they could have easily been top 10 team and just beaten a few more teams in the last second and just weren't able to. So they're really good, but they're not like national championship, like true national championship contenders. They're good.
Okay.
They can make a run. But I think WKU nationally could compete with whoever because of the size now. So I feel once we get in the tournament, I think we've got a shot to beat them, and I think we could beat UK. But I don't expect to. I think this may be the year that we don't win a game in the tournament. But if we do, it'd be a absolutely incredible accomplishment to beat a top 15 or so team. So
good Lord. Yeah. I mean, if it is, I know we've said for years that we think Travis Hudson should get a statue, and apparently he is getting one.
Yeah, finally gonna get one.
But if he did somehow pull off the hat trick of beating Minnesota and UK, I mean, you got to expedite that.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have that thing ready to go as he's pulling in off the bus. Like that sucker's ready.
If they beat Minnesota, it should start getting molded.
It should. It should be done. Yeah, it should be done. They should have it up. The band's playing. He gets off the bus, and they're like, "Here you go." But anyway, so let's talk some women's women's basketball real quick. I've got some stats here from previous games. So we can, Matt, if you'll go through your thoughts on those. I'll have to find one of my pictures here. So give me, I think it's these last 4. I think this is them.
So Lady Toppers, man. I mean, I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Frankly, 7-0. If you haven't heard, you need to pay attention to WKU Lady Topper basketball because, I mean, they're setting precedents that really haven't been set in a long time. It's been since the 90s that they were 7-0. I mean, they were undefeated in November. There aren't very many teams left in the country that are undefeated. I would say less than 50. So it's an incredible streak that they're on. And yes, they haven't played a Power 5 team or whatever, but they have some decent looking wins. Indiana State by double digits on the road. They did what they should against Kentucky State. They did what they should against a Mercer team that, by the way, was coached by Michelle Clark-Hurd. Beat them by 24 on the road. Beat Abilene Christian on the road, which is a pretty solid win. Beat North Dakota at Diddle, and it was closer than maybe the game really indicated, or the game really was played. Beat Tennessee State by 30. Beat Miami, Ohio, who was 4-1 at the time, by 19 at home. I mean, they've been very impressive. The schedule ramps up from here. They play Wichita State December 8th, which is Sunday. Then they get Kentucky Wesleyan. Watch out for them, right? But in all seriousness, then they go Oregon State in Maui, and then they play Nevada. Then they play UK. and then it comes into conference. So we're going to find out how good they really are here in the next few weeks. But I like Western is picked to be like 4th in Conference USA, but they're undefeated in the month of November. It doesn't even matter who they played. That's impressive. And I was saying all offseason, I think that they have the size to be able to compete with people. And, even the offense has not been elite yet. They've had some, gelling type of issues, and sometimes the offense hasn't completely shown up. They struggled against Lee University in the exhibition, but they've kind of hit their stride, and they've got 4 or 5 really good players that can score, and they've got size. So I'm excited. Maybe they can make a jump this year and really have a shot at the conference title.
I mean, you've been an advocate for them for a long time, and I agree with you. I I think the biggest thing last year that was a very big hang up for me was the New Mexico State game when we were talking about how they were yelling at each other on the court.
Yeah.
And there was a very big sense of there's not a lot of cohesion here, where I'm hoping this year that's changed. And evidently 7-0, I mean, something's gelling. So they gelling like felons, and they're doing, yeah. So no Diddy jokes here, you pervs. Anyway. So
even though you made one right as I got on the Zoom before we hit record, but sure, we keep it clean here.
Hey, you said you was lubing up. I mean, you leave yourself wide open. I mean, it is definitely a Diddy. There's a Diddy joke there too. But anyway,
today's episode is sponsored by
Old Spice. But yeah, I mean, I think the Lady Tops are doing really well. It's going to be nice to see how they're going to do in December, and you just need to grow on the play you've done so far.
Yeah,
there may be some hiccups. I don't know how UK's women are. The name alone says a lot for basketball, so it'd be nice for Lady Tops to go in and beat them. And I'll tell you something else I like is Western and UK having the back-to-back playing men's and women's sports. I think we should keep it up, and I think Western should be able to play Louisville too. Have our own little in-state, play, tournament-esque. I'm fine with that. I mean, if you just want to play each other every year, go for it.
Yeah, UK's women 15. They're number 14 in the country.
Yeah, I thought they were something.
And also Oregon State's usually pretty good. Let's see if they're
the Beavers.
The Beavs. They are not ranked, but maybe they're not that great this year. But anyway, they're usually pretty good. So I'm surprised.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing, honestly, when you said Oregon State.
We played them one time it was in Tennessee, I think. When the NCAA tournament, I think we were an 11 seed and they were a 6 maybe. And so they were really good, and they usually are. So anyway, I would just expect them to be a really good test for us.
That'll be good. And hopefully, barring anything happening, we'll be able to have a podcast next week, and we can talk some more about this Wichita State game and some of these others. But let's jump over into men's basketball real quick. They've had a lot to talk. They've had a lot of games. I've got some here. I think this should be all of them. Okay, I think I got all of them. Okay. No, I think that's women's.
You want me to read it off?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay.
I got Campbellsville, Lipscomb. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, exhibition. And just to start from the beginning, they played UAB in exhibition, and UAB fairly well controlled it. And then they won. And then Wichita State as well. Western was a little better, but I think at the beginning of the year they were struggling defensively. But they seemed to have gotten it together. I think the moment that you could tell they were definitely improving was when they played Grand Canyon University, which I know a lot of people look at that and they're like, "Oh Lord, that's a disaster that you lost that one." But Grand Canyon's actually a top 50 program. They beat a ranked team already this year. I mean, they're really good, and Western went on the road and almost won, played good defense, and really competed really well. So they started 0-2, but then that's when they kind of have turned it on. They beat Campbellsville, handled them, scored 100 points. They beat Lipscomb. Lipscomb is a team that's picked to win their league. Jackson State as well, won by double digits, handled them pretty fine. It wasn't any big concern. Then they went to Kentucky, and honestly, against Kentucky, held their own. They had it cut to 6 with, I think it was 12 minutes left. And UK turned on the burners pretty quickly after that. About 10 minutes, it was double digits, and then from there, UK ended up winning by 19, 87-68. But it was absolutely respectable. Absolutely, they played their now third worst game. I think they lost to somebody this week. It was somebody by 4. But Clemson, maybe? I think they lost to Clemson. Anyway, so UK now has a couple of losses or whatever, or have one loss. But I mean, we held our own against a top 10 team and obviously a blue blood in our state. And I was proud of them. I thought they really made a statement there. And then they come home and they played Marshall and pretty much controlled that game as well. And it was close, like it probably should have been. I think the line was 7.5. The game was won by 8, 90-82. Marshall got really hot at one point at the end of the first half. This guy was cranking threes, had like 18 points at halftime. They basically can't shoot. But this guy was like piping hot, number 23, I forget his name. But I mean, they really shot well in the first half, and it kept them in it. And then Western quickly took control at halftime or after halftime and had a nice win against a pretty good Marshall team. So they're kind of sitting about where they should be. We said 5-2, 4-3 would be totally acceptable against a pretty tough schedule. They do face Evansville on Saturday on the road. So Evansville, for whatever reason, has always been a tough place for Western to play. Always have had trouble with them. Then we come home, Tennessee State, Murray, Seattle, Kentucky Wesleyan, and then they go to Michigan as kind of the final hoorah, big splash name kind of thing at Michigan on December 29th, and then we start conference play. So I think they're looking pretty decent, about where they maybe should be or so. Looked a little sluggish at first, but I mean, they've got some players. The main thing's going to be down low, figuring out how to protect the paint, because Babacar Faye is really not really a post presence. He's an athletic presence. But you really need some big bodies that can do something on offense, and that's the big, I guess, hole for this team. They can play 4 guards and they can play small, but if you have a team that's going to force you to play a certain way, you got to have some bodies, and that's my biggest concern for them.
I agree with you on that. You definitely got to have bodies, and we got to have legs come into the season. So we'll see how Coach Polona does with this. And, it's really early in the season to see how everything's going to go and how everything's going to work when conference play starts. So we'll just have to watch the guys and see, and hopefully everybody stays fairly healthy and, all that good stuff.
Yeah, there's some good teams in Conference USA in basketball this year. I think Middle has beaten UAB, and they're like 6-2, 7-2. La Tech was undefeated 7-0 until they lost to Southern. So that was a bad loss, but they're still 7-1 or so, maybe 7-2 or 8-1 now. I don't know, but they've had a good start to the year, and some other teams are pretty good too. Liberty and Sam Houston are supposed to be pretty decent. So we shall see how it all shakes out. But I think we're in about the spot we should be, and they've definitely improved. from the beginning to now. So I like
Hey,
what I'm seeing.
a good competitive Conference USA is always fun to see.
Yeah.
It's not fun to be on polar opposites of the league. You don't want to be the one that's trash, and you don't want to be the one that's beating everybody like a little brother, so to speak. So I mean, making it competitive, it's fun to watch. Um, let's jump into football real quick, and we'll talk Jackson State. I mean, we're kind of having like a almost like a deja vu here. Western played Liberty. We lost a few weeks back, and it kind of just screwed everything up. That, and we played La Tech and lost to them and screwed everything up again. So until this past week, Western was almost to the point of, honestly, going into this game, I did not have any faith in this team. And it sounds bad. I mean, you should always, have faith that they're going to do well. But it's one game that I wasn't going to put money on the game. That's where my money comes. Put your mouth where your money is. But I didn't have enough faith in them to not stall out on drives, which they still did. Honestly, if it was not for is his first name Lucas Carnero?
Kicker?
Yes.
Yeah, Lucas Carnero.
Yeah, Lucas Carnero. If it wasn't for him, we'd have lost that game, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, besides the obvious of him hitting the last second 50-yarder, he hit another 50-yarder that game.
Yeah, after a false start. So it was going to be a 45-yarder, and we get a false start, and he still nails the daggum thing right before halftime. Like, okay, I mean, that cancels out a big penalty on fourth down.
I just honestly, and I don't. Okay, I would rather watch refs that let people play. Okay, that's my opinion. Just let them play, as long as it's not screwing up the game. A major hold that you're going, yeah, that was obvious. There's things that happen in the game, but these refs were just nickeling and diming everything, I felt like. And it was very frustrating to watch that, and especially that aspect of it.
Then,
I think we ended up.
Then they would miss obvious stuff too. Like there was some stuff that's like, oh my Lord, why? What you call this, but not that,
Okay, I've got the game stats pulled up here so we can look at them together. Like Jackson State played horrible too. So I mean, I can't really. They were 2 for 13 on third down efficiency. But as far as penalty yards go, they had 40 and we had 84. And I'm pretty sure at halftime they only had 10. And we had like 40, if I'm not mistaken, because I did when I was tweeting it out, I sent out the halftime stats because it was just ridiculous. The fumble with Caden, I think it's understandable. You don't want to see that, but at the same point, you were there, Matt. So it's like what, 20 degrees, wind blows, and it's like Alaska. So like you don't at that point, like you don't feel your fingers. So I mean, I am making excuses for him, but that fumble was horrible. And Jacksonville State obviously were able to capitalize on some of our mistakes, and we were unable to capitalize on their mistakes, which is very frustrating.
I mean, if we're forecasting for next week, I mean, a couple things that stood out to me that were big deals. You mentioned third down. That was huge. Whether it was us doing that or them just screwing themselves, 2 out of 13 for any team is unacceptable on third down, and it was a huge factor. You notice that if you notice the time of possession, Western had 37 minutes or something. Well, a big part of that will be third down. If you get a first down on third down, you're going to have another 3 plays to run some clock. I mean, 1 third down could make 2 minutes difference in time possession. Yeah. So, I mean, that's something to consider. Another thing was obviously the quarterback getting hurt, which, by the way, all this stuff about he's a game time decision.
That's
everything that I've seen, I think he's out. I do, but I think Tyson Helton said it in press conferences and everything himself. It really doesn't matter because they're about the same level. The backup's pretty good too.
Stewart is the backup, right?
Stewart is the running back.
That's yeah.
So that was
But that kid's
final
quick
point.
too.
Yeah.
That Stewart
Yeah.
kid's really quick.
Oh yeah, he's a good player. He the last 8 games before this last game, he had at least 96 yards, and he usually had at least 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
And so he had done no less than that. Well, this game he had 85 yards rushing and had 1 touchdown, and he did have a couple catches through the air, which he doesn't usually catch a ton in the backfield, but we still held him to 115 total yards. I'll freaking take that.
Yeah.
He's
No touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean he's an absolute monster, and the whole difference in their 4 losses versus their 8 wins is him running the ball. So
Yeah.
Western did a good job, but I really doubt they're going to hold him down to 85 yards rushing next game, especially when the quarterback is either hobbled or out. They're going to rely on him, and he's going to be pissed off. Like if he's a great player, he's going to be pissed and trying to prove himself. And it's a
Exactly.
championship. It's at home. There's all kinds of factors that should go in his favor this next game. So I think Western's offense has got to convert on some of those obvious opportunities, like Michael Matheson running loose 20 yards behind the defense and you overthrow him.
Yeah.
Missing Easton Messer at Liberty. Some of these things that have happened lately that are kind of obvious, like, oh yeah, there's your difference in some, a decent offensive performance versus not. I mean, you did score 5 times, but you kicked 4 field goals. Let's convert a couple of those. You're going to have to this game. I think it'll be higher scoring than it was this last time, in my opinion.
Well, I tell you something else that I think is a missing part of the offense is River Helms, which evidently Coach Helton mentioned that he would be out, which, no kidding. But the other
street clothes for weeks.
Yeah, and that's the other aspect of this is you got Myers. I don't remember his first name, but he's plays tight end.
Noah.
Noah Myers. He's a great player. He did really good the other night. I mean, but he never gets thrown to. And I don't know whether that's Caden not having confidence in him or if Caden's doing the checks and he's covered at that instant when he does his checks.
Speak specifically to him because I watched the replay. I was going to bed and just wanted to have something to kind of sort of watch.
And put you to sleep.
No, I just the tops are my comfort.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, sure. That was a little weird, but Diddy and his lube. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, no, there was this one play and Veltkamp throws it to Young and he gets murdered, right? And this was early in the game, okay? So I was still awake at this point. And so I look up and I'm looking on the replay. I'm like, oh my God. Myers was standing there with no one around him 15 yards down the field, wide open in front of Caden's face. Not a soul could have touched him for 25 yards.
Yeah.
And he's wide open, standing there with his hands up like this, waiting. And Caden doesn't even look at him. He throws the dump off. And then Young gets killed for
that's the problem with younger quarterbacks is I think they're a little impatient and they got their go-tos. Ergo, he's like, okay, I got to look for Young. Oh, I got to look for Messer. Oh, I need to look for this one. And they don't look for the tight end. The tight end is the most sneaky weapon in a passing offense. It really is, because once those big boys playing tight end get into the secondary, they can literally drag DBs for 5 yards.
I have this theory about tight ends. You don't notice them.
Yeah.
But I think they're the key, and you having an elite scoring offense. Like
Tom Brady and Gronk.
Right. Well, think about Jack Doyle. Like,
yes,
Jack's always open, right? That was the motto. But Western's offense, besides Jack and Bobby Rainey, was not that good. But Western could score some because the tight end just opens up all those plays that will be dead and useless or negative. dump it off to the tight end and get a few yards, and sometimes get a lot of yards. On a simple, like, as long as the tight end knows where the hole is in the defense, that's kind of their job, is to read the coverage and find a hole.
Honestly, like, the best thing for tight ends is third downs. Like you said, get to the sticks and just camp out, find green, camp out, and let the quarterback find you.
Right. Their job is to be close enough to be able to dump off a pass.
Yeah.
But they're athletic enough that if they break a tackle or kind of get around a corner or something, they can make some plays. And so that was one that stood like way out to me. Is like, oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Like, he was so open. And
yeah.
it was clear,
you're
like,
preaching to the choir.
Look up the field. And I know he was getting some pressure. And so his instinct, and I'm thankful that his instinct is, I need to get rid of the ball, not let's hold on and try to make a hero play like he was doing early in the season, or, Will Levis type of level of, oh my Lord, what'd you just try, son?
Jesus, no.
Please, God.
But no, you're right. I think he had his moments where it was like, snap. But then he had his moments of, okay, good play, let's go to the next one. He had a couple where he just threw them out, he just threw them away, and that's good. It's better to throw it away. We don't lose 5 or 6 or 20 yards in a sack because you're trying to be a hero. But like you said, I think he did really well. Another player I thought did really well was Elijah Young. Did an awesome job during that game. Like, I tweeted out that he was like flipping everywhere. Like, is he a gymnast? Because he was literally like, dude was like somersaulting over people there for a little bit, and it was
3 out of 5 plays where he went flying and didn't get hit.
Yes. I'm like, does, like, on his days off, he must go to like those little trampoline worlds with the little kids and just does the flips. Yeah,
a bunch of kids and Elijah Young.
That'd be really funny to watch. But yeah, I mean, he did really well. I don't know. I'd have to look up his stats specifically, but he had several yards, both passing and rushing.
He is such a weapon in the passing game. If you go look at his statistics, he really contributes in the passing game almost. I mean, obviously more in the running game because he's the running back, which I know is an elementary thing to say. But let me look up his stats for the year receiving.
But while you're looking that up, I guess I can talk about. I think this coming game against Jacksonville State, you've got to flip the script. This is what we did against you the first time. This is what we're going to do against you this time. Mm-hmm. They could easily, like you said, Elijah Young is such a big weapon. You could run. They ran a lot of screens against Jacksonville State. Run a bubble screen to the outside. Run something to the flats, run something outside, and just let him take off. He does really good when he gets some daylight. Easton Messer, I feel like Messer is such a big name that it's almost like, hey, we're going to triple cover him. Okay, if you got him covered, then we've got other guys open. There's only so many people on the field unless this is Ole Miss's Squirrels, And by the way, I am convinced that now this is a thing. I doubt every injury on the field when it's later in the game. I swear to God, I do. I swear. I doubt every single injury that happens on that field now, because it's like, y'all just want a timeout. They're going to put him in there and they're like, you fall. There
was one Jacksonville State guy, like, he falls down and it's like, oh, that's convenient. And then he acts like he's hurt and rolled around and stuff. And then he stands straight up and sprints off the field.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, well, okay. What was it? Was it Tennessee a few weeks back? They pulled a guy off the field, had another guy go on, and the coach like shoved him as he goes on, and the kid just falls over. And it's like, what are you doing? What is this? I was like, so like every injury now, I'm like, he's faking. But they don't flag for fakes. You get the timeout, so it's all good. But yeah, I doubt every injury except ours. I'm like, oh my God, he's really hurt, and then he gets up and sprints off, and I'm like, son of a biscuit.
The Lord, he's healed.
Oh, the trainer and the power of the name of big red eye, heal you. But yeah, I mean, I doubt when they started going down like conveniently, I'm like, y'all wanted a break. Y'all wanted a breather. That's all that was. And if you're a smart coach, you do that. You teach your guys, hey, you need times, let's go.
We never asked you this. So was there ever any time where they're like, oh hell, they told me to get down, or do you know if there was any of that?
There was one play that I remember specifically under David Elson. It was called Submarine. And I swear to God, they would send a kid in and it was called Submarine, and that kid would go down. And that's how they would get a timeout. They called it Submarine. And the player would go down, and then they'd trade out what receiver, whoever, running back, and then the next one, just to get the timeout. But it was called Submarine. I do remember that play. So there was a specific play in my tenure at Western that was called Submarine.
Offensive play or defensive?
It was an offensive play. It was offense.
Really? Okay.
Which, it's like if we're
stall.
Well, it was the way they had designed it is if we run out of timeouts, this is what we're going to do. So they're like, hey, we're out of timeouts, submarine. And then they'll go in and they'll be like, whatever the play is, at the end of the play, oh, he's hurt. Oh no. And, everybody's, oh, he's hurt. So the refs will call it. And it's like, that's a little sus. I'm just saying, if all of a sudden everybody notices he's hurt.
11 players. Oh my gosh. What has happened?
Oh, it's like, guys, there was only one guy supposed to go down, not 15. There's 4 on the sideline that fell over too. What the hell's going on with this?
15 out of 11 guys all rolling around.
But no, you were talking about with Huff's injury. Huff's injury could be something. It could be anything from like an ankle sprain or a high ankle sprain, a bruised bone. He could have broke his ankle for all we know. He could have messed up something in his knee. So there's a lot of what ifs as to what his injury could have been that keeps him out of this next game. And on the flip side, talking about ankle injuries, he could be in this game, like you said. If they taped his ankle and then they put a tape boot and they taped around his foot to stabilize his foot in one position, theoretically, he would be more limited to pocket passing. So his RPO would be out.
I just don't see it.
It couldn't be a very good idea, but.
Well, here's what I wrote this down because I watched the press conference back, the media availability thing. And he said that Huff tweaked his ankle. He's a game time decision, and he won't put them out there if he can't be himself. And
here's the thing. I think that's a Helton speech, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no. What I'm reading into it is he's out. He said yesterday when the press conference happened Tuesday. So he said today we're going to have a full practice, and I don't know if he'll do anything at all. If you're 3 days from the game and you got a full pads practice, if you're playing, you're at least trying to be out on the field and get some reps.
Yeah.
Especially
but the thing
your quarterback, especially your running option quarterback.
The thing is, with let's just say Coach Helton, for instance, he's not going to do he's out. I think the only reason he said anything about River Helms is because he's been in street clothes for 6 weeks, like you said.
Yeah.
So obviously he's out. Whereas this Huff kid, they don't want to throw in that other option. Okay, well, this kid's coming in, and then Western goes, all right, let's go get film on him. Boop, 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 and we watch the film on him and see what he does. Whereas they're hoping that we have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks, which I would agree with you. I would say the probability is probably not.
They're the same guy.
The same thing.
Basically.
The problem I have with Western playing, or at least if I was Jacksonville State, let's start with this. If I'm Jacksonville State, that kid Huff is going to dress. He can have on an immobilized boot for all I care. Just let him be out there and let them see him and just be like, hey, he's getting ready. What the hell? Yeah. And then just cover the boot, make it tape him up, whatever. I want them to think he's going to play, and then we're going to throw him a curveball and be like, whoop, nope, he's not playing. I mean,
Like
that's
the
me because I am a complete misdirection person. I'm going to be like, look over here and the ball's over there. But the thing is he's going to be a step slower. If he plays, he will be at least one step slower than he has been. And that's going to be a detriment to their offense. And we'll see. It's going to be different.
I mean, good luck to him. I'm kind of the mindset like if you want to play him, go ahead, because that actually would be helpful if he can't move, or if he can't drive off of his back foot or whatever it is. I don't know which foot it was. The right foot. Be throwing.
I don't remember.
I guess
but,
it'd be off. Yeah, he would drive off of
either foot. Really,
it doesn't matter. He would not have as much power throwing the ball. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead and play him. But I would unless he is in great shape and perfectly fine or barely hobbled, you probably need to play the backup and, just deal with it. But
I think that's the best option. That's the best option is to play the backup. And another thing,
the guy can play and he can throw.
Yeah, and he did
better than
he did better the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's like you were saying. I was actually Ross, retired Ross. He was talking about it in our little group chat. That this kid's actually pretty good because I think at least for me, I was like, okay, they're putting in the backup. Western should accelerate and do score 2 or 3 touchdowns, and we'll win this and be done. Whereas that kid comes in and he basically kept everything going the same way it was going. So it makes it a little, the game was still basically going.
Game through the air.
And the other aspect of that really screwed us was the DBs not tackling, just slinging guys, and the guys just kept running because they have balance. I was like,
you'd think by now they would learn not to just fling people to the ground and hope they fall over. Like,
I get it if you're next to, they're going out of bounds and you're just running towards them and you just shove them on out. I get that. That's fine. But like when you're in the middle of the field, you can't just grab somebody and just sling them. That's not how it works. Anybody with balance just stands up.
The shoulder bump drives me crazy. Like, first of all, you're going to blow out an AC joint doing that.
Yeah.
Or something.
And they're pansies. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Anybody
get yourself more hurt doing that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have less tackles that are effective.
Well, and then the other aspect of it. Well, the other aspect is DBs always like to go low when they tackle some bigger people. Mm-hmm. It's just wrap up, hold on. Yeah, you might get drug a couple yards and it'd look hilarious on a poster, but still, that's a team sport. You grab them and you just slow them down until the cavalry gets there. Everybody's got to run to the ball. Yeah, little giants. I mean, but that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. Just wrap up and go on. I mean, this is a team sport. Case in point with Caden's fumble. You got to fumble. The more people that you've got around the ball, the better chance you got to get the ball. It's frickin' probability here. Doesn't take a math major to figure that out. Matt, let's talk. Do you want to do a prediction for this game? Or do we want to not do a prediction for this game? Are you afraid it'll be unlucky?
Well, let me look up what I said on Tower because it's sitting in a draft here. But
okay, I'll do mine real quick. How about that?
All right, yeah.
Well, honestly, I don't think this game is going to be very different from last game. Okay. As far as scoring goes, I think Western is still going to win this game, and I'll say it's going to be 23-21. I think it's going to be another close one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think it's going to be a little more points adjusted because of Western just playing them. So I do think that it's going to be a little different. But I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. I think Western is still going to win. So I am going to go tops on this one.
Yeah, thought I said something different here, but guess I was feeling optimistic on that day, so I'll stick with it.
Oh, great!
Yeah, Well, no,
We're
I
at
honestly
48 to 21, right?
not exactly,
Okay.
but no, I picked us to win, but by a small margin. So I think it's going to be higher scoring, like you said. Like I think it's really difficult to see how Stewart does not go for 100 yards rushing.
Yeah.
I don't see how Jacksonville State is that bad on third down. You know, they're going to figure a few things out and they're going to come up with a couple wrinkles to give our defense some trouble. Our defense has also had trouble against the run. So it was shocking that they were able to keep them to about 200 yards rushing, which is perfectly acceptable if you can hold them to 99 yards passing. Like that's
Yeah.
totally fine. 300 total yards, I'll take that every time. Good with it. Do it again.
Especially when we get 400. Yeah.
Yeah, run that back, and Western should probably win the game. I think the whole key is the offense needs to show up and convert. Caden, you know, hopefully doesn't have those obvious WTF moments, you know, and take care of the ball and stuff. And I think Western proved that they're the team with the ability to walk out there and not play that great and win. Jacksonville State's going to have to play pretty well, I think, to win. I think Western's defense is good enough to hold them back a little bit. And if the offense shows up, I think Western has a better chance of winning in most scenarios just because of the matchup and how it could play out. I do think that, I mean, Trey Stewart could lose it and just go all out and 250 yards and 5 touchdowns and, you know, all that stuff. Or the backup could come in and throw for 250 yards and rush for 125. And, you know, I mean, Jacksonville State could easily put up 30 or 40 points. But I think it'll be a little higher scoring. I think they'll be pretty decent offensively, but I think Western's offense is going to find a way. And I say 34 to 28 Western. And
You said 30 to 28? Okay.
34 to 28.
Oh, I'm sorry, 34, 28. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we both kind of agree it's going to be close. I've got it within 2 and you've got it within 6. So Matt is taking the over. I think the point spread was what, -4, and I'm taking the under on points. So hey, we'll see how it goes.
I mean, JSU is favored, aren't they?
They are
They're like
favored.
3.5.
They are favored, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all we've got this week, guys. We appreciate you all making it this far with us. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We will be back next week to talk about Western's final and the season, talk some bowl projections, and we'll talk some more basketball. We're heading into basketball season. I can feel it in the air, nice and chilly. And yeah, awesome. So we appreciate you all. And as always, guys, go Tops.